I mean, at this point, those people that had been oppressed have garnered a certain amount of power in the public eye, and now they can choose to exercise that power over others. So now they can choose to be discriminatory. They can choose to be the oppressors. They can choose to be the ones that are going to, oppress free speech, free thought. Anybody that wants to ask a question, well, then you're out of here. And so, but I truly thought that if I wore a little Christian message, that maybe I would get some resistance, but we could have a conversation, right? And so I wore a little message that said, Christian family values rock. Now, they kind of perceived that as an offense to pride. And I guess I kind of planned it that way in a sense, because I knew that they would find that a little bit in the face of the pride movement. But I did try very hard to phrase my protest in a way that wasn't anti-anything. And pride is not necessarily exclusive of Christianity, and Christianity is not necessarily exclusive of pride. There are lots of LGBTQ member people in Christian churches. And there are Christian churches that even allow for same-sex marriages and so on. And your perception of what a Christian family might be is, open to debate. But in any event, I figured it would generate a conversation, and we could come to some kind of agreement. Well, they talked to me, and they asked me why I was doing it, and so on. And I said, well, I felt that it was getting to a level that was going to be intimidating. They said, well, it's against our core values. I said, no, I don't think so. Not the way I read it. Have you read your core values recently? Because I don't see anything in there that this would be. Well, he said, well, it's a uniform infraction. I said, well, everybody around here wears all kinds of stuff all over their persons, butterflies and Batman and Thor and gosh knows what, They said, well, anything that could be offensive to another person. Well, I said, okay, but pride could be offensive to another person. Well, but we support pride. It's a company policy that we support pride. Okay, great, but I mean, there's no telling what could possibly be offensive to other people. And I was actually getting positive comments from some of my customers about wanting to stand for Christian family values. So I didn't get any negative feedback, but well, things being what they are, you wouldn't expect to get negative feedback. People are happy to support you when they see something they support, but they probably wouldn't say anything if they didn't support it. So that's not really that relevant. But nevertheless, they talked to me once, and I explained all of this, and they talked to me twice, and I explained again, that I felt that I had to say something on behalf of those members of the staff that really didn't feel like they had a position to be able to say anything. And I couldn't out them. I couldn't say, well, this person or that person or we together, because I wasn't in a position to do that. They didn't disclose anything to me that I was, at liberty to disclose to my employer. So all I could do was support another thought and show by example that they could support another thought and not be ostracized, and not be discriminated against, and not be, disciplined for. I was sure that was going to happen. But turns out, they talked to me once, they talked to me twice, they talked to me 3 times, and then they said it was insubordination because they talked to me 3 times and I refused to take it down. But not once did they even say anything that would recognize that I had any kind of a legitimate cause whatsoever. They didn't say, well, we hear you and we understand what you're trying to do, but unfortunately we have to, the company is, we have to support pride. They wouldn't recognize my position at all, which I thought was bizarre, they're an inclusive employer. They're supposed to be amenable to different people's opinions and so on, but they could not even utter one syllable to recognize that I had any kind of a legitimate cause whatsoever. Finally, on the third time they spoke to me, it was a shorter conversation because I was, well, have you changed your position? I'm like, no, well, have you changed your position? No. So I mean, I guess that means you're not going to take it off. I'm like, well, I guess not. So then they finally said, well, before we go any further, is there any way that you can see that we can resolve this situation amicably? And I thought, hallelujah. Finally, they want to have a conversation. I thought, well, that's nice. Maybe I dodged a bullet. Finally, and I said, well, gosh, I guess if you could tone down the employee lounge a little bit, and make it a little bit more comfortable for everyone, I could see my way to take it off, no problem. I didn't think that was unreasonable. I said it just that way. I wasn't angry. I didn't throw down anything on the table. I didn't smash anything around or raise a fuss. I just said, well, if you could tone down the employee lounge, I could see my way to taking it off. And they said, and I quote, flatly, they said, no, that's not going to happen. And I was flabbergasted because, it wasn't, no, that's not going to happen, but, or no, that's going to happen, that's not going to happen. Maybe you could be involved next year, or, maybe next year we can talk about maybe a different, no, they didn't. And they didn't go, no, that's not going to happen, but, we'll come back to work next week, and when it's all over, and, maybe next year they would just, quietly, consider some other persons or anything like that. They didn't take any slice of humble pie whatsoever. We're talking now, it's about 2 days before the end of the Pride Month thing anyway, so I figured they just let it drop. But no, they fired me. And it's the perception of pride that gives them the belief that they can do that because everybody supports pride. It empowers them to think that the whole world is going to support them for wanting to fire me for having a different opinion, and that it's right to fire me because I don't support pride. Presumably I don't support pride. By definition, I don't necessarily not support it, but I have questions. So, but because of the politically correct movement and because everybody supports pride, they believe that they can do this and have the support of the rest of the world. But it's not right. Right? So when you support pride, if you wave a flag or if you support pride, it's good to keep in mind that what you support, you don't know what you support. People can take your support and use it to their own ends, right? You might say you support pride, but does pride support you? Does pride even, there's no communication there. They're gonna say the whole world supports us because we're LGBTQ, and so therefore we can do what we want. And your ass is green. You're out of here. You're toast because you question our authority here in the company, and so therefore we can fire you because presumably you're against pride, which I never actually said that. But we need to think about what we want to support and why we want to support it and what our support is going to be used for in the future, because I think now we can say that the LGBTQ community has garnered enough recognition and enough power and enough support in the public, and they have a voice in the media, and they have a voice in entertainment and so on. And I think now we can say that for the most part we can agree that they have been recognized. Maybe now we could just not fight anymore, right? Maybe we could put away all the pitchforks and torches and just be one people again. Can we do that? Because the Pride movement has now not it's not the little tender shoot that we once fanned to life back in the 70s. It's not the 70s anymore. It's not the 80s anymore. It's not the 90s anymore. Even up to 2000 or so, but now it's 2024, and the Pride movement is now a monster with many heads and long, strong tendrils that can reach out and grab you and shake the life out of you and tell you that you don't have a place here anymore. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you think they're right in doing that. I don't know. But you can ring in with your comments. The pendulum has swung the other way. The balance of power has shifted. The oppressors are now the oppressed. The discriminated are now the discriminators. It's retribution. It's not justice. It's vengeance. It's not justice. It's not equality. There isn't anybody that really truly wants equality. They want plus equality. They want equality plus extra recognition. They want equality with extra benefits. It's not good enough to be just equal. You have to be the people on top in power, the people exercising the dictating the rules and the regulations and dictating who gets to say what. Think about what it is that you support and why you support it, and whether or not you want to support organizations or entities. It's not an organization. Spiritless, if you're going to support spiritless grassroots movements that are going to use your support for their own means, it's time that we stop fighting. We got to put down all the weapons and just go back to being one people. Who's with me on this? Can we do that? Thank you for listening. Have a good day. Bye. So if you really liked what we were talking about and liked what I was saying, then you want to keep in touch with any updates, then hit subscribe. If you really hated what I was talking about and you want to disagree with me at every opportunity, then hit subscribe. If you don't think that any of this has any relevance to you whatsoever, then I guess you're probably not going to continue the conversation. But that would be sad, because we're talking about the entire human race here. So I hope you'll join me as we continue looking into the various things that separate us and how we can maybe defeat those obstacles. Thank you for listening.